Welcome to Helping Hands. This is where we celebrate the people and organisations who make the world a better place. Coming up today,
we did 130 odd quilts to the bushfire victims.
The second part of the Teapot Weekend.
Do I eat or do I heat my home?
The impact of the rising cost of living. And we invite you to connect at helpinghands.tv. Last week, we saw the first part of the Teapot Weekend Retreat run by Robin Morris and her team. A work that started over 20 years ago with a handful of friends, today impacts over 400 women a year and now includes their daughters and granddaughters. And the positive ripple effect of this weekend away also helps people in need.
Teapot Ministries, I think the best way to describe it is an experience. Oh, a good weekend would be to see the women coming in on Friday night feeling tired and exhausted and just ready to go, and then watching them shine over the weekend.
I haven't been to one before, I've heard about them. Weekends like this are important because women, for a start, I think get a break from their everyday life and to just rejuvenate, get refreshed. I used to work over at a conference centre at Yarramundi. If I've got a skill or a gift that I can give to people or do for others, then I think I should be using it. I had that example in my own family, that you serve others, you do good for others and help others. This is my daughter Hannah. I just roped her in to give me a hand today because it's all voluntary and it's good that we think the same. So I'm going to put a bit of garlic aioli on the chicken ones. We're attempting to get a bit of a conveyor belt system going here, a factory line, and
that's not a real one.
So we're just getting in the flow, I think, still. How that works.
We need to get a system going.
Do you want to mix it on
I
there?
think we need a template.
Today I could be out in the sun, I could be going shopping, could be doing all different kinds of things, but today I'm here because I actually see the value in investing time into other people's lives. Retreats like this, although they're short, they're actually quite impactful, especially for women who have an extremely busy lifestyle. I see the value in it because I think giving up your time to give to someone else is always valuable. My mum is definitely an example to me that she's doing this just out of the kindness of her heart, and it's impacting others, it's benefiting others, and I think that's the greatest reward. So yeah, that's why I'm here.
For this retreat, we're doing something a bit different. Our theme is about giving this weekend. So instead of us spending the week feeding them, we've actually done a picnic hamper box for everyone. So they'll all get a picnic hamper box and a bottle of drink, and then they can go somewhere quiet and sit and enjoy their lunch.
I come to weekends like this to get away from the craziness of working. I have two kids that have special needs, and sometimes mums just need a break with other mums where I can do things that I love, which is sewing. The fun of it is, I would say, creating things that I didn't think I could. I came to sewing many moons ago in high school and just doing basic things, and now I can make quilts for friends and family, and generally if someone gets married or has a baby, they get a quilt. I've got a digital machine, some of the ladies just have an analogue machine, and over here we've got a featherweight machine which is 1950s, so 70 odd years old. It's a beautiful machine, it's like a classic car. I would love to own one. It's got grunt. a 1950s machine. It's a strong workhorse. It's beautiful, and it also looks just stunning. Whereas these guys, they're all beige, they're all the same. We're coming to a craft, retreat weekend. I don't think it's mine's better than yours, mine's bigger than yours, mine's more expensive than yours. It's more coming together and, oh wow, look what yours does. It's more coming to the sisterhood of machines. And yeah, it's just a fun weekend, and I might get a chance to try it out. I really want to have a go, but we'll ask her later.
After the break, we'll see more from the Teapot Weekend.
We did 130 odd quilts to the bushfire victims. Charity Day is where we come together as a group of women and we make charity quilts. It evolved, it didn't just happen. We were originally looking at just having weekends when women could come and just stop and be blessed. Over the years, we have then wanted to share that blessing with others. So in our charity corner, we are putting together blocks. Now, if you don't know what a block is, pass me a finished block there. Our charity block for our quilts for next year is this one here, which is called a disappearing pinwheel number 5. So we are making these blocks. We are cutting the fabric, getting them sewn into this point, and then they will ultimately become this. That's a completed block. Karen's one of our charity ladies, works a lot each week on the quilts. She has been a great ambassador and distributing quilts during the bushfire time.
My husband and I were caught in the bushfire 2 years ago, and I was in a store buying a little heater, and there was a lady, and I overheard her conversation saying that she was living in a caravan and it was freezing. So as she came out of the store, I approached her and asked her, was she a fire victim? And she said yes. And I said, I've got some quilts, would you like some? And she said, oh, thank you. And my husband and I drove out the next day, and there were 3 families living out on this property. There was a mother and several children living in a tent. The husband was living in a container because his feet were too big and long for the tent, and then the other 2 families were living in a caravan. So I put the quilts out and they chose one each for each family, and I said no, there's one for every person, and they were just overwhelmed. On the Tuesday night there was a program on Cobargo, and there was a lady who was coordinating for all the fire victims. I gave her the residual quilts I had and said, would she like some more? And she said, I'd take whatever you can give. So each time I went down to the south coast, I would take big bags full of quilts that the girls had made, and they were just so grateful. We continue to do that to this day, helping other charities. This quilt is a typical charity quilt that we do. We use our scrap fabric. Sometimes we go and buy extra fabrics. And this one was actually put together by somebody else, but I then put the 3 layers together, the top, the wadding and the backing, and I'm just finishing it off. And we also put a label on each quilt showing that it's been made by Teapot Ministries. Each quilt has been made with lots of love.
We have a lot of gifts that the women get over the weekend, over the course of a weekend. They'll get a goodies bag when they arrive. They have little special treasures on their pillows at night. They'll get a special pin, and then every year they come, they get a new pin and a new pin and a new pin. Every one of our retreats is themed, so that we have had a different theme for every retreat, and we work into that theme. Because I've run the ministry for 20 years and we've been doing pins for at least 19 of that 20, I've got all the pins. One of the last things we do as a wrap up, we show each other what we've achieved and what we've done over the weekend. Then we all gather together for a group photo. People will display the quilts they're sewing, if they've done little things, a handbag, they'll hold up a handbag. And we're able to capture the essence of the weekend at the end.
There you are, Bruce.
Thank you.
A pleasure.
Appreciate it.
Are you ready, Bruce?
Oh, I don't know. Would you ever be ready for this?
Well, you've got to stand here like this. Come through, ladies, come through. Looking stunning then, Jenny, stunning.
If I send them home today or tomorrow, and they've got smiles on their faces, and they've revitalised, re-energised, then I've done my job.
Come through, ladies.
It's an experience.
Looking stunning.
That's the best way I can describe it.
If you are a helping hand or would like to see a helping hand from your local community featured on this program, visit our website and be in touch. We'd love to hear about the people and organisations across Australia who are making the world a better place.
It's wonderful to celebrate the work of people who are prepared to roll up their sleeves and make a positive contribution in their local communities. I hope you can be inspired by Robin and her team, and that you might be prepared to do something that is a blessing to people in your circle of influence. Welcome back to Helping Hands. This is where we recognise the positive contributions of people across Australia who make the world a better place. The rising cost of living is being felt across Australia and in many different ways. Today, the panel joins Laura Bennett in the studio to look at the impact of the rising cost of living on everyday families and also to some of the most vulnerable people across Australia.
Hi there, thank you so much for joining me. On the panel today we have social researcher Mark McCrindle, the CEO of Wayside Chapel, John Owen, and Lisa Ellis from Wesley Community Housing. Thank you all so much for being here. Mark, when we talk about cost of living, it's something that in the last couple of years people have really felt. Have we ever seen such an increase happen quite as quickly as we have in these last couple of years?
No, it's all come about very quickly. We've got an interest rate that's higher than it's been for a decade and a half. We've got inflation that's the highest it's been in a generation. And you've got consumer sentiment that's the lowest on record. So we've got a whole generation that have grown up in pretty stable economic times, suddenly wondering what this society is like and what their economic future is like because of these headwinds that have all hit so suddenly. How does the cost of living affect Australians in a general sense? Because I know we all know how it affects us personally, but in a general sense, what are we facing right now? Well, it has flow-on consequences. It's almost like a vicious cycle because we tighten our belts because we're struggling to make the household budget meet those needs. And that means then that impacts on those businesses and therefore their ability to pay, and therefore the whole economy starts to suffer. Now, in some ways, that's the intention of raising those interest rates, to slow things down so we can drop inflation down. But it seems that the costs are going up and the wages aren't keeping pace. And then you've also got this negative sentiment where people are worried and not spending. So it's sort of all a bit of chaos at the moment and certainly impacting on Australians, but the economy as a whole. And when you know how much it impacts people of a middle class experience, people with full-time work, surely then, John, it's got to be affecting people that you come across at Wayside Chapel. Like, what's the impact on people who are already in need?
For many of those people, it's not about, I'll go from the premium brand down to the more generic brand. It is about whether I have it or not. And we're seeing a lot of the trade-offs, between who eats, or if one of my family members gets sick, of course we're going to pay for the medical, but that means I will go without. So we're in this kind of suspended animation right now where a lot of people are going without, unfortunately, or people are taking extra jobs. And what we're seeing is that's leading to a lot of stress and pressure and family breakdown because there's almost people are forgetting to focus on their well-being in their in their rush to survive, and so we're seeing increased pressures there. So finding that balance, these are tricky times. I mean, I know some families who are saying, okay, we're all doing it tough in the same street, so I'll cook for Wednesday night dinner and we'll share around, and they'll do, we've got a rolling roster in some streets, which is, one of the most wonderful ways that we can say when united we stand and divided we fall. So let's stick together.
There's certainly got to be an upside, because in the supported housing side of things, Lisa, is there more people that are needing that kind of service then now?
Yeah, so I think we've always had it to a degree, but we're now seeing people that are making choices of, do I eat or do I heat my home? Do I buy that medication I need or do I eat? Do I go to the doctor to get my diabetes checked at my regular checkups? They're making those sacrifices every single day. And what we're also seeing is then that has a real impact on their mental health, because they're already living in stress on low incomes, and then that's just a whole nother layer, which then has detrimental effects on their health overall.
There's only so much extra work you can kind of do to kind of mitigate the cost of living increase. Mark, what do you see Australians doing to adjust, to make the ends meet that they need to in this time?
Well, the fastest growing employment type is the multiple job holder. So people are adding extra hours or extra jobs. Sometimes it's a side hustle, it's a little bit of earning on the side in a gig economy type thing. But people are trying to get those extra earnings in, and that's on the income side, but then they're trying to cut down on the cost side. And so that means you're tightening that budget in a whole series of ways, but particularly those with children. That's just the extra factor, because more people in the household, and children often are the most vulnerable in these situations, and obviously more costs and no extra income when the children are there.
So is stress management something that's then important in this? Because both of you have mentioned like the family and domestic violence that can result, like the relationship to children. Where does stress management fit into how we approach the cost of living crisis?
Not very well, that's the answer. Unfortunately, in a crisis, we either stick together or, and we see this sadly all too regularly, is we tend to turn to the bottle, or we tend to turn to gambling a lot more. And both of those things never really ultimately lead to positive social outcomes for families and communities. So we need to be actually more courageous. We've all sat there through lockdown and read the books on vulnerability. Now's the time to cross the street and actually ask how you're going. I'm hearing a bit of extra yelling going on, no judgment, but right now I know we're all going through tough times. So, I think it's important for us to actually take the initiative, take a risk, and show a bit of courage, because ultimately it could, save lives.
What would you say to that, Lisa?
Yeah, just picking up on what John's saying as well, in that we don't know what the impact of a conversation might have, and we might never find out, or someone might in 10 years' time say, I'm really glad that you checked in on me then, because I didn't know it at the time, but I needed this support, and that was just that little instigation that I needed to then get that support.
And as hard as it is now, Mark, we want to know that there's hope around the corner. Do you think there is? Like, how long do these kind of windows normally last where we're in these kind of cost of living windows?
Yeah, well, these are just cycles. They're called that for a reason, because these times will also pass. And the current forecasts are about maybe 18 months in this challenge, and it'll start to ease off in that period of time. It's sort of the winter, but summer approaches, and that tends to be the cycle. So it's not going to disappear in a matter of weeks. And I think that if Australians can get some healthy savings and discipline in place to get through this next 18 months, I think that'll be great. But the pressure will ease over time. That's what all of the government and the RBA and all those decision makers are all working towards, and I think those days will come.
That's what we've got to remind ourselves of, adjust the finances and also get the social and community support too. Thank you all so much for your contributions. Thank you for watching.
If there's a topic that you'd like to see discussed on Helping Hands, visit our website and be in touch. We love talking about the things that make the world a better place.
The extended conversation is on our website and certainly worth watching, as the panel discuss more ways we can all manage the increasing costs around us. Head over to helpinghands.tv and click on the links to our panel discussions. We don't have to look too far to see people around us who are willing to roll up their sleeves and make the world a better place. Whether it's through a weekend away or being willing to help people in financial need, we sometimes need to find a way to look beyond our problems and find the helping hands in our local community.
Let us know about the helping hands in your local community at helpinghands.tv. Send a photo or a short video and tell us about your local heroes in 25 words or less.
Head over to our website and become part of the Helping Hands family. Subscribe to our mailing list to stay up to date on all things Helping Hands, to see extended interviews with our panel, and to join the conversation via our social channels. I'm looking forward to seeing you again next week.